How did ancient humans actually mate? Right now, finding a partner involves apps, profiles, carefully chosen photos, 3 days of texting before anyone agrees to meet, perfume, nice clothes, and a small panic attack in the bathroom mirror beforehand. Your ancestors had none of that. No apps, no bedrooms, no privacy, no soap, and somehow they still flirted, fell in love, had kids, and kept the human species going for 300,000 years. So how did that actually work? Not the biology part. You know how that works. The real question is weirder. How did a person 40,000 years ago, surrounded by 20 relatives holding spears, actually find someone, attract them, and end up raising a screaming toddler with them on a freezing grassland? If you dropped a modern person into a Stone Age tribe, the dating scene would short-circuit your brain within an hour. First thing you'd notice, there was nowhere to hide. For almost all of human history, people lived in tiny bands, 20 to 50 people, walking the landscape, chasing food and water. That was your entire world. You knew every single person personally and were related to most of them. So there was no private life. Every argument, every crush, every embarrassing moment happened in front of the whole group. There was no ghosting someone after an awkward night because that someone was at the same fire the next morning watching you pretend not to make eye contact. Picture trying to flirt while 30 relatives sit 5 feet away saying nothing. That was just normal life. That was Tuesday. And here's the first thing that would genuinely shock a modern person. The hot guy in the tribe was probably not the buff one. He was the funny one. Anthropologists keep finding the same thing in hunter-gatherer groups. The most attractive trait wasn't muscle. It was being a good storyteller, someone who could make the group laugh around the fire at night. This isn't a cute theory. A study of the Agta people in the Philippines found that skilled storytellers were more in demand as partners and had more children than everyone else. The ability to make people laugh literally got passed down through the gene pool. Your sense of humor might exist because some ancestor absolutely killed it around a campfire. And it makes sense. In a world with no money, you couldn't impress anyone with stuff. Nobody owned anything. So people judged each other on the only thing left, behavior. Who shared food after a hunt? Who stayed calm when a predator showed up? Who comforted crying kids? In a tiny group where survival depended on cooperation, your reputation was everything and everybody knew exactly who you were. Now here's where the modern brain really breaks. Romance back then wasn't about two people, it was about the whole group. When you partnered with someone, you got absorbed into the social web of everyone around them. The Hadza of Tanzania barely spent time alone by modern standards. Almost everything happened surrounded by other people, which raises the obvious question. With 20 people sleeping in a pile 5 feet away, how did anyone get any privacy at all? The answer is they didn't, not the way we mean it. They had 3 tricks: timing. Private moments happened at night when everyone was asleep or politely pretending to be. Distance. Couples wandered a little way from camp and 50 feet into the dark is basically invisible. And the big one, everybody just pretended not to notice. They built invisible walls out of pure social agreement. There was an anthropologist, Colin Turnbull, who lived for years with the Mbuti people in Central Africa and noticed they had no word for privacy at all, not because they were simple, because wanting to be alone made no sense to them. Being alone meant being unprotected. For most of human history, wandering off by yourself wasn't peaceful. It was how you died. Movies love to show cavemen clubbing each other over a partner and dragging them off. Real evidence says that's mostly nonsense. In a lot of hunter-gatherer societies, women had far more freedom to choose than people assume. Among the Jew/Hwansi of southern Africa, women openly rejected men they didn't like, and divorce was common and accepted. If a relationship turned sour, people just split. No lawyers, no bitter group chat. You just stopped sharing a fire. This points at something important about how humans are built. We evolved to pair up, but not necessarily forever. Ancient relationships were flexible. Some lasted decades, some a season. And that makes brutal evolutionary sense because of one specific problem: human babies. Here is the real reason love exists, and it's not romantic at all. A baby horse can stand within hours of being born. A human baby can't even hold its own head up and stays helpless for over a decade. That's an insane amount of investment. Raising one to adulthood in the Stone Age with no medicine and no grocery store was nearly impossible for one person alone. So evolution did something sneaky. It installed emotional attachment. That overwhelming pull you feel towards someone, the thing we write songs about, is partly just biology's trick to keep 2 exhausted humans from abandoning each other while they haul a screaming toddler across a grassland for 10 straight years. Love is real. It's also a survival mechanism in a very convincing disguise, and even 2 people often weren't enough. Humans figured out something most animals never did: teamwork parenting. Mothers didn't raise kids alone. Grandparents, older siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, the whole group helped feed and watch the children. Anthropologists sometimes call us the ape that needs a village because raising a human genuinely took one. This might even explain something strange about your family. Why do human grandmothers live for decades after they can have kids? Almost no animal does that. The leading idea is the grandmother hypothesis. Grandmothers became so useful at raising grandchildren that living long after menopause helped the whole family survive. Your grandmother might exist in part because prehistoric childcare was a group project. So what did ancient people actually find attractive? Some of it is familiar: health, strength, confidence. But a lot of it got bent by survival in ways that would confuse a modern person. Body fat, for example, wasn't seen as lazy. In a world where starving was a real possibility, some extra weight signaled you were healthy and likely to survive. Scars weren't flaws either. A hunting scar said experience and bravery, someone who'd faced danger and walked away. And then there's the weirdest one: smell. We spend enormous effort today erasing our natural smell with deodorant and perfume. Ancient humans just smelled like themselves, and their noses were doing serious work. Studies show people subconsciously prefer the scent of partners whose immune systems differ from their own, which makes for healthier kids. Translation: your nose has been quietly picking your partners this whole time, running a background check you didn't even know about. Now picture the setting where most of this happened. Night. A fire. A sky drowning in stars. No electricity for tens of thousands of years. No phones. No noise except crackling flames and people talking. Anthropologists think fire basically rewired human romance. Before fire, the night was pure danger. You stayed quiet so nothing ate you. But fire created safe hours after dark, and suddenly humans had time to just sit together. In those hours, people talked. Stories happened. Jokes happened. Jokes. Flirting happened. An enormous amount of human bonding was invented in the glow of a campfire by people with nothing better to do until sunrise. And here's the part that actually gets me. These people were not emotionally different from you. They fell for each other, they got rejected and felt awful. They lay awake wondering if someone liked them back. They felt jealous, they felt heartbreak, they felt that stupid fluttering thing when the funny one looked their way. We know this because of how they buried their dead. Archaeologists have found ancient graves where bodies were carefully, deliberately laid to rest, sometimes in a sleeping position, sometimes with objects beside them. At a famous cave called Shanidar in Iraq, Neanderthals were buried in a cluster and clumps of flower pollen were found around one of them. For decades, people called it the flower burial. These days, scientists argue about it. Some think bees or rodents carried that pollen in, but here's what isn't in doubt. They buried their dead at all. They didn't just leave the body where it fell. Someone stopped. Someone arranged them with care. Someone treated a dead person as something that still mattered. That's not survival. That's grief. And grief is just love with nowhere left to go, running on the exact same ancient wiring you're using right now. Because under the apps and the cities and the perfume, almost nothing has actually changed. Confidence still signals competence. Humor still signals intelligence. Kindness still signals someone you can rely on. Jealousy is still the fear of losing something you've invested in. And love is still just attachment, quietly keeping people together. Strip the technology away, and the human story has always been the exact same thing. People sitting near each other in the dark in a dangerous world, hoping the funny one likes them back.